Good afternoon. I'm David Israelite, the President and CEO of the National Music Publishers Association, and I'm honored to be joined today by songwriter David Lowery. We're here today to make a major announcement about our effort to combat theft sites that traffic in illegal lyrics. We're going to make some brief remarks, and at the conclusion, we'll take questions which will be submitted via the web, which we'll be able to read here on the computer. We have quite a few reporters that have joined us today, and so we'll do our best to answer all the questions that you might have. Song lyrics are one of the most sought-after types of content online. Over 5 million searches each day for lyrics on Google alone, with well over 500 million displays of pages on lyric sites each month. Our music publisher and songwriter members are encouraged by the popularity of their creative work, and they want to see legal lyric sites thrive. However, it's estimated that more than 50% of the page views of lyrics are from sites that are not licensed. That's why today, working with songwriter David Lowery, who has researched unlicensed lyric sites, we are going to go after the 50 worst offenders of illegal lyric sites. We have already targeted 8 of these sites in our previous actions, but today we are sending takedown notices to the other 42. For all 50 of these sites, our message is clear. You have choices. You can choose to license and be legal. You can choose to shut down, or the third option is you can choose to be sued. This is not an effort about fan sites or individuals with blogs, but it is a strike against illegal sites that generate revenue through advertising to encourage these sites to license and fairly compensate the songwriters whose content allows the websites to exist. These sites have an extremely detrimental effect on songwriters. Unlicensed lyric sites earn revenue through advertising, yet the songwriters who provide the content on these sites receive no income for their work. Further, the existence of these illegal sites deny the legal sites the opportunity to thrive in a legal online marketplace. The notices that we are sending today include compositions from major music publishers like Sony ATV and Universal Music Publishing, as well as 9 other independent music publishers. While our ultimate goal is to ensure that lyric sites and songwriters become partners through licensing, we will take further legal action against any site that fails to become licensed or remove content. Let me now turn it over to David Lowery to talk a little bit about this problem.
Hey, I'm David Lowery, and as David said, I'm a songwriter and singer with the bands Cracker and Camper Van Beethoven. I also have a fairly sophisticated background in mathematics and computers and economics, and in that capacity I also teach at University of Georgia, where I teach the finance and economics of the entertainment business. And I also do research. And as a songwriter, as opposed to a performer, I began to notice a curious thing one day whereby I own a lot of my sound recordings and songs outright. They're licensed to other people sometimes, but I often keep track of where these songs are being illegally shared. And one day it occurred to me that it appeared that searches for lyrics were as popular, if not more popular, than searches for the actual MP3s and downloads. So I'd never really thought about it, but I started looking at all these lyric sites, and I observed that some of them are in fact licensed. They're licensed through Lyrics Fine, Music Match. Music Match, is that
yes,
how you?
Music
Yeah,
Match.
Spelled a little funny. Though,
with an
right?
X.
With an X. Music Match, and others are not. And so I got really curious about this whole sort of ecosystem or sort of underworld of the unlicensed lyric sites. So as a songwriter, I value the fact that some people are good enough to ask permission of me or my representatives if they can host my lyrics on their sites, just as your average consumer might like to be asked permission if somebody commercially uses their Instagram photos, for instance, right? Or their Facebook photos. It's just general civilization is founded on permission. So I noted some of these sites were good enough to ask my representatives permission to use my songs, and some sites weren't. So I wanted to quantize this. So I set about coming up with an algorithm to search for lyrics for two of the most popular songs, on the Billboard charts, and one old song. Every 2 weeks, I started doing this, and eventually came up with, I think, is a pretty good and robust algorithm for quantifying who are the top 50 sites that are unlicensed, appear to be monetizing the lyrics, that is, mostly using advertising, and who these sites are, and basically kind of ranked in order of popularity. So that's how I arrived at this, what I call the University of Georgia Undesirable Lyric, Top 50 Lyric Website List.
Well, thank you very much, David. In addition to being a great songwriter and artist, there has been no one who has done more to advance the cause of songwriters than David Lowery, not just through putting a spotlight on this problem with this list, but really through all your writing, all your speaking, all your activity. And so it's an honor to be here with you, and I really thank you for what you've done on this. Let me talk a little bit about NMPA's program in this area, because this is something that we've been working on since 2006. We have sent over 370 different takedown notices since we began this program in 2006. We've had some success with over 20 illegal lyric sites that have now transitioned to be legal lyric sites. Many others have voluntarily taken down, and unfortunately, in 2 instances, we were forced to take legal action. In both those cases, we of course prevailed. In one case, we had a settlement with Lyric Wiki. The other case, we brought all the way to final judgment against Live Universe. The net result with over $7 million in judgments and damages against just those 2 sites. We now are focused on the 50 worst offender list. And our preference is that they go legal and license. If they don't want to do that, they have an option to shut down. But if they choose to continue with their illegal operations, they're going to find themselves in the same place as these other 2 sites did, where I can guarantee you that the end result will not be good for them. And that's certainly not what we hope happens with this. David mentioned that it is very easy to run a legal lyric site today because there are 2 companies in particular who have aggregated lyric rights in a way that it makes it easy to be licensed and be legal. And so I want to thank Lyric Find and Music Match, both of whom are partners with us and have done a great deal to make this type of a landscape easy to license. So there's no longer any excuse for someone to say that it's difficult to be licensed in lyrics. And I want to again emphasize that our target is that of companies and individuals that are trying to profit off the backs of songwriters. We are going after people that are attempting to make money using the intellectual property of songwriters without their permission and without sharing any of that money with the people who created the works that drive people to their sites. And so with that, why don't we stop and take questions from any of the reporters? I know that you're not able to enter questions until we're finished, and so I'll give you a moment to ask any questions that you might want to ask, and we'd be happy to address anything that you asked us about. I have a question about whether or not we are working with just major publishers, and the answer to that is no. Some of the major publishers have provided copyrights for this particular action today. I think I mentioned Sony and Universal, but we also have 9 other independent publishers that have provided copyrights that are being used in today's actions. NMPA represents a little over 3,000 music publishers, basically the entirety of the music publishing industry in the United States. And we haven't even attempted to ask all of our members to provide copyrights, but if this effort continues, we obviously will be looking for more participation and more copyrights as we go further down the road with this. Next question is, Why are we going after these sites if they are not the bigger ones that we see on the Google Transparency Report? The answer to that is that while the Google Transparency Report is a list of the worst infringing sites overall, the sites that we're focused on are ones that are of particular interest to songwriters.
Well, and I would like to say the Google Transparency Report is largely, which covers copyright infringement notices, largely covers sound recordings. That side of the business, the sound recording side, the record label side, has a very robust operation to take down these sites. We do as well on the songwriter side, but it's not nearly as big as it is on the sound recording side. So the Google Transparency Report is, and well, also the Google Transparency Report includes the movie business, the film business, television, all of these other properties, right? So there's, these are highly infringing sites. It's just the way the Google Transparency Report is calculated. It doesn't, these sites are not going to rank as high because they're just strictly lyrics publishers. It's not all of those other companies and industries sending reports to Google.
Yeah, and that's a good point. In the world of intellectual property, songwriters often find themselves at the bottom of the economic food chain. And so it's not surprising that lyric alone sites wouldn't rank as high as other forms of intellectual property theft. But if you're a songwriter, these sites matter. Lyrics are becoming an increasingly important revenue source for songwriters and music publishers. People like to talk a lot about adapting to the new world for music, and one of the ways that songwriters and music publishers are doing that is by trying to make sure that they are exploiting their lyric rights in a way that can help generate revenue for the people that create lyrics, as other forms of revenue tend to go down or are going to go away. So lyrics are becoming increasingly a very important part of the overall pie of what a songwriter makes for their efforts.
Right. And as far as web traffic goes, the Google Transparency Report does not reflect web traffic. I believe A to Z Lyrics is in the top 500. I believe Rap Genius is around 750. These as 750th most popular website in the world. Okay, so these are more popular in a lot of cases than the MP3 and BitTorrent sites. Okay, these sites are they generate a lot of traffic. One last comment on that, I'll post this later today on my blog, but I just took a screenshot whereby I typed in Wrecking Ball. If you don't know, Wrecking Ball is Miley Cyrus's latest hit. I typed in Wrecking Ball, and the first, which generally I've always assumed is the most popular auto session, it autocomplete. The autocomplete was Wrecking Ball lyrics, and 2 below that was MP3, and downloads was even farther down the list. So there are a lot of people that are looking for the lyrics to songs. It's a great way to build traffic to your website, and a lot of people have taken advantage of this. And some people are licensed and some aren't. Let's get the licensed ones on board.
Right. Question about the list itself. David's made that list public before, but for anyone who would like us to send directly to them a copy of both the report and the list of the 50 sites, we'd be happy to do that. Just contact us at the end of this press conference, or contact Amy Lee or myself, and we'd be happy to send that to you directly. Rap Genius. Yes, Rap Genius is on the site list. In fact, I believe it's number 1.
That's number 1. A
word about Rap Genius. There was news made recently of an investment round that Rap Genius received of, I think it was $15 million. Rap Genius had been on our radar screen for some time, but as I've said a couple of times...
All of which I'm sure they'll be sharing with the songwriters. Don't you think they'll be sharing some of that with the songwriters?
At the end of this process, there's no doubt. One of the things I've mentioned a few times is that we do focus on sites that attempt to monetize the activity. And it is clear now with this investment round of $15 million that Rap Genius is a site that intends to profit off of the activity. And the only reason why anyone is going to the site is because of these lyrics. And I imagine that's why the investors gave money to the site, is because of the eyeballs that go to the site because of the lyrics. And so, yes, Rap Genius is included in this list, and one that is getting special attention due to the fact that we now know that they're attempting to monetize the site and have recently received a great deal of money for what they've been doing. Okay, I don't have any other questions that have come in, but if anyone has any further questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. And I want to thank those who are participating in this for attending. This is the first type of press conference like this that we've done. And again, I really want to thank David Lowery, whose work in this field is just so important to all songwriters and creators, and is just such a great friend to all songwriters. Thanks again, David.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Good. Okay.
Thanks.